The chime of the bell beckons us into a sacred time. Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Houston, where we widen love's circle by honoring the inherent worth and dignity of all. We extend a heartfelt and inclusive invitation to join us in meaningful worship and in service to the world. We greet all those who join us this morning, those in our sanctuary, and all of our many online viewers. Así como el creciente número de participantes bilingües que nos acompañan desde sus hogares. We are glad you have joined us this morning for our bread communion, an annual tradition and ritual on the Sunday before Thanksgiving. We will be sharing with one another delicious breads inspired by our ancestors. And a new tradition we've begun is take groceries to the Emergency Aid Coalition. We hope you'll join us. I invite you to pause and greet one another after the service, and then make your way to Channing Hall for coffee and more conversation. And I hope you'll take that opportunity to say hello to someone you have not yet met and make a new friend.
Good morning. I invite you all to take your teal hymnals and open them to number 1051. And please rise in body and spirit as the string band leads us in song.
Come, enter into this place of community and remembrance. I was a stranger and you welcomed me. We remember the stories of friends, strangers, our ancestors, and those they broke bread with. Come, enter into this place of gratitude and community. We are grateful for both those things we have and our obligation to share with others. For I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. We are grateful for the companions with whom we now break bread and the memory of those we now know only in our hearts. We are grateful for the opportunity to share our bread, drink, and time with those in need and the memories and future we will hold dear by doing so. Come, enter into this place of gratitude, remembrance, and community. Come, let us worship together.
And reading the covenant found in your order of service. Love is the spirit of our congregation. Service is our prayer, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to encourage one another. Thus do we covenant.
Today, we invite all of you, the adults, children, and youth, to participate in this multi-generational service, our annual bread communion. Unitarian Universalists embrace ritual. As well as this autumn event, we also enjoy the flower communion in late spring and the water communion at ingathering. As covenantal people, we honor and welcome ritual that draws us into community and grounds us in spirituality and the justice work we are called to do in this world. Rituals can be seen as bridges between the secular and sacred realms, or even between a believer and a deity. Today, through the imagery and symbolism of bread, we reach toward the sacred realm and the past to remember and honor our ancestors. We stretch out our hands toward those with less so that we might share with them. We look forward to embrace our family and neighbors coming after us. In the rear of the sanctuary, we again have quiet boxes to keep the hands of the little ones occupied while they listen. Please grab one if you'd like. After the service, we hope you will help us carry our bread, represented by all the canned food our congregation has collected, down the street to share it with our neighbors at the Emergency Aid Coalition. And now we have a special treat for the young ones here, because we're going to ask you to come forward and help Carol and the string band sing a song. Then once you're done singing, I'm going to tell you a story. So if you're one of these young people who want to help sing or hear a story, you can come forward now.
Find the words in your order of service.
We are blessed by every forest
and look at me if you want. Does anybody else want to come up and hear a story? You'd be able to hear me from there, but still, it's more fun to be close to me. Do you all like to read?
Yes. Sure.
Good. You knew the right answer. I love to read. Hi. I love to read. This church year, we're talking about some different spiritual leaders. Each month, we're doing a different person. And this month, we're talking about a lady named Dorothy Day, who lived way back in the 1900s. And she loved to read. She read book after book after book. And then people wrote books about her. I know, really? You can learn a lot from books. Authors of books share ideas. And this is the time of year when we especially talk about sharing. People you know in person share ideas with you, but you can think about even more ideas when you read. Now, one of the things Dorothy Day read about were ways to be kind to people. She found some guidelines on how to be kind to people in both the Hebrew Bible and the New Testament. They are to feed the hungry, to give water to the thirsty, give clothes to those people who don't have any, to shelter the homeless, to visit the sick, and to visit people in prison. Now, back when I was your all's age, they used to talk about visiting people who were shut-ins. Now, I don't hear that word very much anymore. Shut-ins are people who are either sick or kind of elderly, and people who just can't get out of the house very much anymore. So they really appreciate a visit from people. So, when I was little, we learned about sharing our time with people because they can't get out very much. Dorothy Day dedicated her life to helping people, and she shared not only her time, but her food and water and home with those people who needed it. And so today, after our service, we're going to take all the canned goods that the community service team and all the people in the congregation collected, and we've collected a lot of stuff, I can tell you. I was looking at it before. We're going to take it down the street to the Emergency Aid Coalition. We're going to do a parade like we do on Easter, where we get wagons and pile all the food up there and take it down to people who need food. So, I hope that this season of sharing, you'll think more about what it means to share, and I hope you'll be able to help us take all that food down the street. And especially, I hope you think of ways that you can be kind to one another. All right? Okay, cool. So, since you all get to stay for the whole service, you can just head back now and sit with your families. We thank the string band. They are heading out because they did the first service as well. So feel free to give them a round of applause to show your appreciation to the string band. That's one of those things I never learned to do, was play a stringed instrument. But it's never too late, I guess, right? So. This is the time during the service when we pause, when we take time to enjoy just being. It's the time when we stop rushing and try to shut out distractions. It's the time during the week when we're able to be comfortable with the silence. And so we have intentionally carved out this time to calmly enter into a time of quietness. This is a time that some call meditation and others name prayer. Let your body settle into a comfortable place. Breathe with me as we gather to do the holy work of kinship and support. Open your mind, open your heart. God of many names and mystery beyond all our naming. Today, the activities and the upcoming holidays remind us of what we too often forget, that we do not stop often enough to reflect on our blessings and express gratitude for them. We ask that you guide our hearts and minds to do that this week. And today, and during this hour, help us to reflect on those things we have to be thankful for, and reflect on those people with us now or with us in spirit whom we are thankful for. We once took time with those people and offered thanks before every meal, pausing to acknowledge those who provided and prepared the food. But we are busy now, barely pausing to eat and often not together with loved ones. May we remember to pause and take the time to give thanks. We know that the other side of the coin of gratitude and thankfulness is condemnation and censure. We are well aware that while our society has neglected showing appropriate gratitude, we have often not neglected condemning those we see as different, threatening, or even expendable. Tomorrow is Transgender Day of Remembrance. We remember those who have been threatened, faced violence, and even been murdered simply for living into the full expression of who they are. According to Forbes, around the world, 320 trans and gender diverse people were killed between October 1st, 2022, and September 30th, 2023. 94% were trans women or trans feminine people, and most were Black. Our hearts break for their friends and families. During this American Indian and Alaska Native Heritage Month, we remember those who have been threatened, faced violence, and been murdered, even after famously having helped give new immigrants a reason to give thanks for surviving on a new continent. Our hearts break that the repercussions of the banishment and virtual genocide of Native Americans are deeply felt even to this day. So, today, we not only say thanks, but ask for help in saying thanks more often, to condemn less, and to stand up more often for those who are condemned, not so that we can be thanked by them, but because it is the right thing to do. We pray in the names of all those known and unknown, present and absent, remembered and forgotten. We pray in the names of all helpers of humankind. Amen. We pause now together to lift up that which sits heavy and light on our hearts. We continue to keep the entire Singleton family in our prayers as Carl goes through a difficult time. We continue to pray for the people of Israel, Palestine, and all those around the world suffering the horrors of war, and pray for their safety, for peace, and for justice. And in the Joys and Concerns book that we put in the foyer for you to write in, we read, Greta Brown, sister of Natalie Brown, lives with Parkinson's disease and just had a serious fall. Lyle Fisher, Mary Cook's brother-in-law, is in hospice. We send him and her sister supportive thoughts. Certainly we're keeping all these people in our prayers. We now turn to a practice inspired by African, indigenous, and pagan traditions. We say aloud or bring to mind those who we wish to be held by the loving embrace of this religious community. They are part of the great cloud of witness and memory, and we will, even if we do not know their names, hold them in our hearts. In this great cloud of witness and memory, amid this beloved community, we hear these names and hold them in our hearts. Let us remember the suffering and joy amid and among our community that we do not know. Each week at this juncture, we enter into a time of silence, a time when we pause in awe and wonder of the beauty, diversity, and mystery that is life. In the spirit of love, in the spirit of hope, and in the spirit of compassion, I now invite each of you to enter into a time of silent prayer, meditation, or reflection.
Each week, our morning offering is shared with an organization that shares our Unitarian Universalist values and through which we may live out our principles in the world. This week and next, that organization is Second Servings. Second Servings is a Houston-only prepared and perishable food rescue organization. Since 2015, they have been redirecting unserved and unsold food from retailers, sports venues, and distributors and hotels to the people who really need it at shelters, soup kitchens, low-income housing, and many other nonprofits. Since they began, they have rescued over 10 million pounds of food and more than 400 food donors and delivered it at no cost to 140 local nonprofits. Those in our sanctuary will find instructions for text giving in the order of service next to the name of the shared offering recipient, and those watching the live stream will see instructions on your screen. Our regular Sunday morning offering collection invites us to weave a tapestry of love and action. We ask you to give generously. An offering will now be gratefully received.
Please join me in saying the dedication to the offering that you can find in your order of service. To the work of this church, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings.
Please turn to the responsive reading in the gray hymnal number 726. I will read the words in regular print, and you will read those in italics. Please rise in body or in spirit. I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me.
Here is the bread of life, food for the spirit. Let all who hunger come and eat.
Here is the fruit of the vine, pressed and poured out for us. Let all those who thirst now come and drink.
We come to break bread. We come to drink of the fruit of the vine. We come to make peace.
May we never praise God with our mouths while denying in our hearts or by our acts the love that is our common speech. I know that I am worthy. I know that I am welcome. All are worthy.
All are welcome.
Come into the embrace and remembrance of this communion. Please stay standing.
And turn to number 69 in your hymnals, and we will lift our song, our voices in song. Number 69, Give Thanks.
Please be seated. And now the welcome team will bring the bread forward to the chancel for our beloved communion. You will find in your order of service a blessing of the bread, and it has parts for you to say as well. Throughout recorded history and around the world, bread has been vital to nearly every culture. Since the dawn of agriculture, bread has been one of the oldest human-made foods. Bread's significance in many traditions is shown through the handing down of recipes from generation to generation. We are grateful for and value our ancestors and their legacy. Bless this bread. In biblical times, bread was such an important element of the diet that sometimes the word was synonymous with food in general. Before taking the first bite of food, our Jewish friends recite, "Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has brought forth bread from the earth. We are grateful for that which gives us nourishment. Bless this bread." Bread in Islam also refers to food in general. They believe it is a gift of God from the Creator to creation. Therefore, it shall be taken care of, protected, nurtured, and used appropriately. We are grateful for and value this bread. Bless this bread. When Jesus realized the crowd who came to hear him was hungry, he asked the disciples to bring him the bread and fish. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, he looked up to heaven and blessed and broke the loaves and gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the crowds. We are grateful for our ability to share our bread with others. Bless this bread.
In this month's Lives of the Spirit, we have started to get to know Dorothy Day. There is a quote from her connected to our bread communion that I found intriguing. It felt like there was something meaningful there, but the language needed some translating for me. Here are her words. "We cannot love God unless we love one another, and to love, we must know each other. We know him in the breaking of the bread, and we know each other in the breaking of the bread, and we are not alone anymore. Heaven is a banquet, and life is a banquet too, even with a crust where there is companionship." Dorothy Day was Catholic. There are wonderful metaphors in the language used by Christians, and while they are used by them, they are not only theirs to use. In the Christian children's song, "This Little Light of Mine," I'm gonna let it shine, we find a great example. That I want to celebrate and encourage my light to shine, that I won't hide it under a bushel, that I will share it everywhere I go, and that I won't let anyone it out. These ideas can illuminate my path, even if I'm not talking about the light being Jesus or God. "Take me down to the river to pray" is another example. Feeling drawn to the river for renewal and communication with the Spirit of life is something I want to be able to do, something to move me. The images and ideas can be expanded to new understanding and inspiration. And I also have my own definition or translation for the word God. God means to me the powerful life energy of the earth and beyond, the life energy of the universe. I don't believe that other religions own the word God. I know that for many of us, the word has a lot of baggage and may conjure up the image of a bearded man in the sky or even the patriarchy. But I have reclaimed it to myself to mean something different, something like a life force, the earth, that goes beyond our planet and into the universe. And I know there is a life force beyond me, something I see in the flower in my garden that turns into an eggplant, something that turns the caterpillar eating the milkweed into a butterfly, something that makes the birth of a human possible with an egg, a sperm, and a womb. You probably have your own meaningful examples too. You may call it by another name than God. Unitarian Universalists, we sit together in these pews and we have no expectation whatsoever that we call the sacred by the same name or believe the same things, and that alone is pretty miraculous. I return to the words of Dorothy Day, which I want to explore line by line. I start with this: we cannot love God unless we love one another, and to love we must know each other. To love we must know each other. How do we put this into our lives? What does love mean here, do you think? Perhaps love is care. Is it giving time and listening? Is love shown toward working toward the understanding of the other person? Over 20 years ago, Bob Shibley stood at this pulpit and wrestled with Jesus' instructions to love our enemies in the context of the September 11 attacks. He asked how one can love such an enemy, and what would that look like? He suggested that it would include truly listening to them and trying to empathize. Love your enemy. Love one another. These are religious ideas that deserve exploration in different eras. So today, we dig into them again. To be honest, as a human, I feel limited by my ability to do what Bob Shibley and Dorothy Day are suggesting. Love one another. Is that loving everyone? Friends and family and our church community right here. This is where I work on most of my loving and knowing. Perhaps some people are able to love everyone all over the world and try to understand and take time to listen and to show deep care through their actions. But of course, each of us is limited. There is not enough time in any of our individual lives to give the deep care everyone on the planet deserves. And since we cannot reach out to everyone in need, there are times we just want to change the way things work. How can we make something more just in our society? We think of ways, but we learn that changing entrenched systems is very difficult. When there are powerful people gaining a great deal by the way systems are in place, we see them fight with all their might to keep change and justice from happening. Even small changes can take years. But when each person does their own loving actions, I do believe they add up. And each loving action can change the life of another, or at least change their day. And I think I want to get a t-shirt now that says, "Love Local." Because that is what feels possible now. And Dorothy Day says we must know one another. I read that every day, more superficial interactions with people in our community are very important to our well-being. When we chat with the person at the coffee shop who made the beautiful design on our latte, or when we smile and nod our head to someone who's waiting at the bus stop with us, it makes us feel like we're living in a safe, benign environment where there's general goodwill. When Dorothy Day says we must know one another, I don't think she's talking about the superficial greetings between those of us who pass in the urban environment, despite the benefit of those interactions. But maybe she's thinking about caring enough to find out someone's story, to find a connection human to human. We humans are great at projection. We make lots of assumptions, but we cannot put everyone who meets certain characteristics in the same box, can we? So I know it must mean knowing them as an individual person. I feel like I need to tell Dorothy Day that once again I feel so limited. I can work on doing this better, especially when I know that or hope that it creates a better world and know that it creates a loving community. But I still feel like my knowing is a local one. No local. It is the effort I make to get to know those in my world a little bit better and not make assumptions about them. To keep open to learning more about each person that I come in contact with. And for this, I return to one of my last sermons about rest. Rest as resistance. The world is big. Even my community is big. And I learned years ago from a book called From Good to Great by James Collins that the best size for a company is 120, since that's the maximum number that people can actually know each other well enough to have a bond. Our huge urban situations demand much more of us than that. And the information coming from all over the world, from the Ukraine, from Gaza, from Antarctica, from DC, from Georgia, it's coming in at a pace that no human being can absorb. And we can't know what's happening, and we can't know the people the way Dorothy Day, I think, is talking about here. So do I say, Dorothy Day, it can't be done? Or do I just continue exploring and let's see what comes? One thing that comes to mind for me is that knowing one another helps us find connections, and that if I don't know you, it's much easier for me to treat you as the other. Here's her full quote again. We cannot love God unless we love one another, and to love, we must know each other. We know him in the breaking of the bread, and we know each other in the breaking of the bread. And we are not alone anymore. Heaven is a banquet, and life is a banquet too, even with a crust where there is companionship. The hymn, when she says we know him in the breaking of the bread, is capitalized, and therefore I believe she means God. So what is your version of God? Spirit of life, the energy and power of the universe, those are mine. Goddess, God by whatever definition. We know him, we know spirit of life in the breaking of the bread. In the Christian writings, breaking bread sometimes means referring to Jesus being broken. And sometimes it refers to the broken pieces of bread, representing each of us as part of a whole. It is easy in our society to feel isolated and to not feel part of a whole. Independence is heralded as an honorable goal. Don't need others, it's weak. Don't depend on others. There's even comedy when adults are living at home with their parents. American culture says that's not good, while in other cultures, living at home is helpful to all and considered to be a good choice. So now I am imagining myself as a piece of bread, with the bread representing the whole of the earth, and I am one piece. When we break bread together, I take my piece and eat it. You take your piece and eat it. And we are together, in person, eating together, aware of the oneness that we have with the wheat, with the seeds, with the sun, and with everyone gathered at the table. Everyone gathered in this sanctuary, in the pews now. This is inspiring and hopeful. We know him in the breaking of the bread, and we know each other in the breaking of the bread, and we are not alone anymore. I'm challenging myself to get to this place of spiritual connectedness whenever I eat with another, with my husband, with my extended family, or at the next plant-based potluck, with all of the bowls of shared food. In our family, we sang a song before eating, and we still do, that brought these ideas to life in a slightly different way. Thank you for this food, for this food, for this glorious, glorious food, and the animals, and the vegetables, and the minerals that make it possible. And then we added my husband's family's bon appetit that he grew up with, and then amen. So that was a meaningful ritual in our home and continues to this day. When we break bread together, sing together, share the highs and lows of our days together, we are not alone. Let us find ways to break bread together. The last part of Dorothy Day's quote is this: heaven is a banquet, and life is a banquet too, even with a crust where there is companionship. So heaven is a banquet. A possible couple of meanings for heaven are a view of a great afterlife, the best of life we can imagine, or the best of life we can imagine here on earth. Most Unitarian Universalists do not believe in heaven or hell as something that happens in an afterlife. But maybe some in the pews do, and that is fine. It is often said by Unitarian Universalists that we make our own heaven and hell here on earth. And I do believe some people create hell on earth for others, especially people who have power and are selfish and abuse their power. They can create a world of have and have-nots. They already have, and they're doing it now more. And white supremacy culture creates hell on earth, to be sure. So Dorothy Day goes on to say, and life is a banquet too. Life is a banquet. Banquet makes me think of something big, over-the-top, meal of plenty. Life can certainly be like that. There is indeed a great deal of possibility in our lives. Even before the thousands of podcasts and memes and Facebook messages and texts and celebrities to follow on TikTok and billboards and multiple distractions, even before all that, there were fireflies to watch, stories to learn about the stars, the tales of the ancients, songs to sing, and poems to memorize. There were also horrible losses to face. There was the hard work of growing food and harvesting, and there still is all of those things to fill a life. So life can definitely be full and over the top in any era. And it is a way to view one's life that is given to each of us as a banquet that I find meaning and joy. Thank you, Dorothy Day. Then she says, life is a banquet, even with a crust where there is companionship. Yes, companionship. We know that we need other people in our lives, and there is the possibility of companionship here today with each other. Maybe you can feel it. And in hard times, the material and emotional place might be merely a crust. It feels like a crust, a kind of leftover part that was left when the good stuff has been consumed. Some of us here today might feel like life is merely a crust. It can feel like that sometimes. But imagine a small group eating together, each with only a crust, but with stories and offers to help each other, and maybe some giggling. Perhaps life is more of a banquet when we are together. And we can have companionship too with our ancestors when we bring them forward and remember what they have given us. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. And when we have companionship with the earth, We can feel the banquet when we care for the earth, like in the song we sang, we are keepers of the earth. With its riches and its beauty, every river feeds our soul. And we can find companionship with those who need us, those who need food and clothing and drink and visits of all kinds of care that are needed. And we can feel companionship making our life a banquet, full of the spirit of life. And for this, we can be grateful. And as we head into Thanksgiving, I invite you into gratitude. I invite you into companionship, into breaking bread together, each of us part of the whole. May it be so.
People to come forward to receive pieces of bread. Please know that there is plenty and that there was no need for you to have brought bread to receive bread. So I'm now going to invite the ushers to take their places. They will help you know when it is your turn to come forward. You also have the opportunity to step to the microphone and briefly describe the bread you brought and why it is special to you. Now, please limit your story to only a line or two, as we want to hear from each person who does want to share. Now, what you're going to do is come up the side aisles, and the ushers there in the side aisles will help you by indicating that it's your row's turn. Then you'll come and receive bread, perhaps tell a line about the meaning that bread has to you and your ancestors, and then everyone will return back down the center aisle. I think I've told you everything. Everyone is welcome and invited to partake in our bread communion. So let us begin.
Tried a new recipe. It didn't quite turn out, but it still tastes good.
Everybody always asks what I brought, since they know that I always bring something special, but I made rosemary garlic focaccia bread. It's not from my ancestors, it's me passing it down. When David's son Pax got a stand mixer, he asked me to show him things he could do with it, and so we came up with this recipe, and hopefully we can share it with you all. And it is vegan, so.
So my best friend can't have gluten, and so I came up well, I looked on the internet for a recipe and now make this banana bread pretty much all the time, even when she's not around.
So this is my grandmother Fern Chapin's dinner roll recipe that Molly has practiced for a few years, and we like to have it on Thanksgiving so that we have her with us.
We are grateful for the bread and for these stories we have shared. I invite you to take a moment to close your eyes and reflect on our shared experience. We offer our gratitude for the hands that made this bread and brought it here. We offer our profound gratitude for the hands and hearts in this beloved community. And we offer our gratitude for those we love and cherish beyond these walls.
I invite you now to open your teal hymnals to number 1010. We give thanks. Please rise in body or in spirit and join together as we sing.
Please join me in reading the words to extinguish the chalice found in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
I leave you with these words of Dorothy Day. We cannot love God unless we love one another. And to love, we must know each other. We know him in the breaking of bread, and we know each other in the breaking of bread, and we are not alone anymore. Heaven is a banquet, and life is a banquet too, even with a crust, where there is companionship. As you depart this place, continue to be grateful, live in hope, and go in peace. Amen.
Thank you so much for watching our service today. We're glad you're part of our online community, where we welcome people who are diverse in faith, ethnicity, history, as well as gender identity and sexual orientation. There are many different ways you can get involved in our community. One you can do right now is by clicking like below or subscribing to our channel. If you're interested in joining our congregation, please email us at membership@firstuuhouston.org. Thanks so much for joining us.